when you're fear. There's no easy way to hear. And all the memories you love to bring, with all the things that you hate to scream. So tell me, hollow on the inside, there's no trying to hide from this monster inside me. So if you try to criticize me like the world defines me, image of what I have become.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Browns Beat Podcast. I am one half of your co-host. My name is Tristan. I'm here with my man Derek. And Derek, wow. What a performance by the Cleveland Browns to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, baby. Oh, man. For those of you who, we didn't really talk about it on our last episode, especially because we got into a really, really interesting argument with college football quarterbacks. If you have not seen that video yet, go check it out. It is a fantastic video. I can tell you, Derek and I both put a lot of effort into it, and we both have very strong takes. This is one of those where we don't agree with each other on this at all. So you got to go see it. Okay.
And if you can't get enough of us idiots already, 2 hours and 22 minutes and 22 seconds.
And 22. Wow, that's incredible.
Isn't that
that's
crazy?
So incredible. That's so fitting. That's so fitting because it's so crazy. And what else is so crazy is that game, that incredible game. Derek, you and I both were in attendance for that game, and man, was it a special thing to attend. You and I both agreed that the Jets game last year that we went to was the biggest occasion that we had both witnessed in person. That was the best game we had witnessed in person. And that's without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, the only other one for me that even comes close to it that I've been to in person was the comeback against Chicago with Joe Flacco. I talk about it all the time. I'm sure you've heard me say it. The ball, quite literally, the ball to Amari Cooper, like flew across my face, and I was in the upper, like the 300 level. Right, that's how incredible that ball was, and I was right at midfield. It was beautiful. But anyways, this was an incredible game, Derek. And before we get into dissecting the individual parts of it, kind of tell me, what were the highlights of this game for you?
Oh, well, first things first, I don't know about you. I am still recovering from that game. Like, dude, let's
my gosh.
Let's put this all into perspective. First of all, love you, Michael Cozy, but boy, going to a football game with him is an experience. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details. Tristan knows the majority of what I am, what I'm talking about here, but your boy had to be the peacekeeper of some situations, and but man, dude, the whole experience was crazy. Like, it was freezing. Like, I listen, from Fremont, Ohio, right, which is near the lake. Tristan, I don't know if you want to say where you're from, but you're from an area where it is cold as well.
Yeah.
We're used to the cold, but this was cold. This was this was a weird, cold, windy, snowy, like, it was everything. And the Snow Bowl of 2024 was nothing short of incredible. And you said it, Tristan. For me personally, I've been very blessed and fortunate to be at some very cool events, a couple different games, Ohio State games, Browns games. Just went to SummerSlam this past summer. That was a cool thing to be at. Been to a lot of cool stuff. This was by far the best event I've ever been to. And it is one, we talk about it all the time, the Jets game from last year. This game will forever live in my memory till the day that I die. because there was something so incredibly special, Tristan, about watching the game at first, and you can see the field and everything's cool and it looks great, and then all of a sudden it's completely white out, snow's flying everywhere, looked like a real life snow globe. And I'll put the pictures on the screen for you guys that I got, which, by the way, I totally forgot to send those to you, Tristan. I greatly apologize.
No worries, bro. No worries.
I'll put them on the screen. It doesn't do it justice. You can attest to this. Like, there's nothing like being in that stadium at that moment. It was unreal. And the cherry on top, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a team that is really, I'll say it, they're not great. They're not. And they've gotten very fortunate to win some close games, and they're good, and they've won. Good teams win, but they're not great. And this is your division rival. This is Thursday night primetime football, and the Browns come out and we play, I would argue, one of our best games as far as being competitive. And then the Steelers go up late in that game, and it's kind of like, oh, not like this. Like, come on, man. Not like this. And then what happens? The good Lord shines his brightness on us, and the Cleveland Browns come away with a 24-19 victory. Oh, man. Let it snow, let it snow. The Cleveland Browns got some more victories, baby. I can't say it better than Jameis Winston. Oh, man. What a game. What a game.
Yeah. Absolutely, Derek. I mean, you said it perfectly. Like the pictures, the videos, whatever, even like the live footage, it does not do that environment justice. The environment that game was in. It was an incredible environment. And you're absolutely right, Derek. It's one of those things where I will always remember that Jets game, right? I'll be that old grandpa taking his not children, but teenagers to a Browns game. A little bit too rowdy for young kids, in my opinion. But if you bring your young kids, that's fine. Regardless, I'll be able to talk about how at Huntington Bank Stadium, right? Cleveland Browns Stadium, I got to witness two amazing moments in Browns history, and I'll be able to say, like, I was freezing. I can over exaggerate and say that it was in the negatives, right? I can do that, right? Because I can have those moments, and I can always go back to them, and I can share those moments, and that's why we love football, and that's why we love the Cleveland Browns. And Derek, it's moments like that. Just, I'm so grateful. Right. I'm so grateful. I mean, just, oh man, it's been a terrible season, but that was probably the best game we could have gone to. 100%, 100%, a fantastic performance. I said this at the end of the game, and Derek, I don't know if you remember this or if you caught this, but that game, it didn't feel like this year's team. That felt like last year's team. And that was such a magical moment for me, and it was so important for me because I was worried after that Saints game, and also before the games before that, I'll include that, but especially after the Saints game, I was worried that this team lost their identity that they built last year. That team that is the never say die, always going to be a good team, like the Steelers and the Steelers and Ravens are, right? Those teams, no matter what, they're always going to be good, right? Always going to be good. At bare minimum, they're going to be good, right? And that's because they've built up a great culture. And I was worried this year that culture that I thought we had last year was really only just, a flash in the pan. But this was a moment that showed me otherwise. This was a moment that said, like, the Browns had no reason other than just pure hatred of the Steelers and wanting to show up for their fans to go out there and play as hard and play as well as they did. I mean, seriously, putting up 24 points on that Pittsburgh Steelers defense is an incredible feat, and that cannot be overlooked. I mean, it was not by any means a perfect game. I had my complaints during the game. You're well aware of what those were. But, just in totality, everybody brought it. Everybody brought it. And that's what I'm so happy about, is it feels like that's not lost. And that's so crucial and so important moving forward into this offseason.
Yeah, it was it was make or break. I mean, not in the sense of like what you get from winning as far as like playoff implications or whatever. That game was just about what is this team made of? It was that simple. You had your division rivals who you hate, they hate you, coming into your house in a weather game which by the way, this whole like, oh, the weather favored them. I'm sorry. Is Pittsburgh, Miami, Florida? Like, where did that get mixed up at? I don't know. But this situation and the tension was high. I don't know about you. We didn't really talk about it prior to the game starting. I went into that game thinking this could be Kevin Stefanski's last game. Like, I really did go into it with like, hey, if you come out, you look bad and you get embarrassed, that might be it. That really might, just given historical precedence on the matter of, head coaches getting fired after the Steelers game. And, boy, what a statement. And the funny thing is what you said, right? Like when your grandpa, whatever, you're telling these stories. The funny thing is we don't really have to over exaggerate. Like, I can literally say that it was so bad leaving the stadium, aside from what else happened, that we literally were shuffling our feet to get out because everything was iced over and people were falling down. Literally, people were falling down the stairs. This poor old man right in our section. I felt horrible. Coming down the stairs, and next thing I know, he's on the ground, and it's like, man, it's more so of like, that is what that game was. It was a game that the majority of people, there's really no good explanation, right, for the Cleveland Browns coming out and winning that game the way we did. But we did it. We did it. And I had this conversation today with a Michigan fan talking about next week, and he said the only thing that gives me hope in that game next week is the fact that historically it didn't really matter record, right? The hatred and the history of these two programs, it's going to be something. It's going to be something. And that's what this was, Tristan. It didn't matter that the Browns were 2-8. It didn't matter that the Steelers were 8-2, I think. It was just a story of pure grit and will. And you mentioned it. That's culture. That game right there was a clear sign, that these guys still have some sort of pride and belief in who they are as a team. And that was shown by none other than the guy who is very much a lead by example, quiet guy. And it might not be who you think I'm going to say. It's not Nick Chubb, although he had a great game. What a story that was. Myles Garrett, the guy who is very quiet, doesn't really say a whole lot, just kind of plays. I don't want to say he's disrespected because he gets the recognition, but he himself is not very vocal. Tristan, I was driving home after that game, which there's funny stories to tell about that. We were singing Christmas songs the whole way home, and we were just having a blast. I don't know if you saw the video, but we saw the shirtless big dude in the Nacho Libre mask, and he gave Cozy a sticker. Crazy. But Cozy played the video of Myles Garrett post game, and I literally looked over and I said, "That's AI. That ain't real. Like, there's no way that's Myles Garrett." And it was. And he made it clear that he had a purpose in this game, and that was to show that he is the best edge rusher in the National Football League. And certainly you can argue, you can debate it, whatever. Listen, we were there. I saw Myles Garrett making plays. TJ Watt didn't, and that's one game. But point being is there was a purpose, and there was a purpose behind this game. So I'm so proud. I'm just so proud that, you know, we were able to be there. We need to go to more games, because every time we go to games, good stuff happens.
It's a fantastic game every time we go. It's pure cinema. Like, it's amazing. Yeah. We somebody buy us season tickets. We will go every game, right? We will go every game, and we will be undefeated at home. I promise. No, I'm kidding. I can't actually promise that. But if you want to buy us season tickets, I will gladly accept. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, in particular with Myles Garrett, you're absolutely right. He's a guy that oftentimes does get a lot of criticism when it comes to the Browns because, you know, in those big moments, right, when things aren't going our way, especially on the defensive side of things, or just in totality of the game, the number one place that all Browns fans look to is Myles Garrett. Do something, right? Change the tide, right? Do something that will either seal us the game or give us an opportunity to get back into it. And there are times where he's able to be Superman. He's able to do that. And then there's just times where he can't get through 5 guys, right? He can't get through 3, right? Like he you know, he can't do everything all the time, right? And I feel like there's a lot of times where he gets unfair criticism in those moments because nobody treats any other edge rusher like him in the NFL. Nobody. And that's something he mentioned, that like TJ Watt doesn't get the treatment that he does, right? Nobody else does. The only guy you can compare in terms of treatment as far as recent is Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, every snap, had at least 2 guys on him. A lot of times had 3, right? Even though he was on the interior, right? Because he was that dominant, right? Myles Garrett, completely opposite. He's a guy on the edge, and he has to deal with chipping tight ends. He'll deal with the tackle, a guard, a running back. He has to go through so many people to get to the quarterback, right? Similarly to Aaron Donald, even though he did it on the inside, Myles did it on the outside. Nobody else gets that kind of treatment. Put on the tape. It does not happen. The only guy I could hear an argument for is Micah Parsons. That's it. That's the only other guy. TJ Watt last season got less double teams than his other edge rusher. Highsmith had more double teams than him, right? And that's not to say that TJ Watt isn't a great edge rusher. TJ Watt's one of the best edge rushers in the league. I'm not afraid to say that. He absolutely is. But Myles Garrett's absolutely, he's a cut above. He's a different level. And looking at the stat sheet won't tell you that. You got to look at the tape. If you put on the tape, you will see definitively that there is one guy who's by far greater than the next. And no disrespect to TJ, it's just acknowledging Myles' greatness. Yeah, he was spectacular.
Especially when you're in person. I think the number one takeaway, you've been to a couple games now, I've been to a couple games. You don't really truly fully understand the amount that Myles Garrett has held. Like, I'm not complaining. I'm not saying, refs, what are you doing? Obviously, it's not fair. But this happens with a lot of edge rushers. But quite literally, it is not an exaggeration to say every play. Like, Myles Garrett is held, tugged, pulled, ripped, whatever you want to say, every play. Even face masked at times. Like, it's absurd, and he never gets a call, and that's just how good he is. Like, if you were to call every single penalty that was on or being executed against Myles Garrett, we'd still be at the game. Like, I mean,
and we'd have a perfect record.
Yeah.
Like, we'd have a perfect record. Yeah, no, I hear you, man. It's incredible. And, you know, he had 3 sacks. He had a hell of a lot of pressures. He was all over Pittsburgh in a way that he had never been before. And part of the reason because of that was because he's been getting doubled. He's been getting tripled every single time that we play Pittsburgh. And this time he found a way to raise his game to another level. I would argue, because there's Indianapolis last year that was a career-defining game for him. I would argue this might be his greatest performance as a Cleveland Brown. Like, it's right up there. It is right up there. I mean, especially doing it against a team that is your rival and historically has done a good job of keeping you silent. Yeah, absolutely. This absolutely deserves to be at least in the top 3 of Myles Garrett performances. And it was a blessing to watch it in person. And I'm so grateful I got to watch him play. I mean, I always felt jealous of, my grandpa when he told me that he got to see Bernie Kosar play in person, right? And I always had that sense of jealousy, right? Now it's like I've got that with Myles Garrett. He's that good. Same thing with Nick Chubb. I got to see that in person, and that was fantastic.
I don't know what you mean. You're telling me you're not excited to see the man himself?
Listen, I gotta see James Winston and Joe Flacco cook in person. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I'm blessed. Yeah.
You can retire. You can retire from going to games. You've seen it all.
Exactly. Although I do actually have an undefeated record at going to games. I will mention that.
Ooh.
I've never lost going to a game.
Wow.
I went to my first game was against Cincinnati, which we always beat Cincinnati outside of the first game this year. But historically, we've been really good against Cincinnati, so we won that game. It was a tight game, though. My second game was the Bears game. We came back, incredible comeback. Third game was the Jets game. We won that one, and then this one we won as well. So
crazy. I wish you would have told me that because I would have felt a lot better about this game. I felt good. I'm not gonna lie. This was like, I hate to say, like the whole just feeling thing, but it's real. Like it's real. I went into the game with just a feeling of like, yeah, this is gonna be good. Like I'm not confident enough to guarantee victory, but I'm confident enough that this team is gonna show up. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned it, Myles Garrett doing what he is doing from the edge. I mean, it happens to other guys too. Like I don't want people to hear this and think, oh, we only think it happens to Myles, because it does happen to TJ on occasion. It does happen to Nick Bosa. It does happen to Micah. It happens to all these guys. But the consistency at which Myles is having impacts on games is incredible. And Tristan, starting off, I guess, with the defense here, another guy who had a really good game under the radar from the interior, Dalvin Tomlinson, 10 pressures on the day. Dalvin had a great game. Mo Hurst had a great game. Those guys up front had a great game. And Tristan, my number one, you asked earlier, I didn't answer. The number one takeaway and key moments of the game for me was the stuff that we normally don't do. And that's us on offense converting on third down, which we did in key moments consistently. Thank God. And then defensively, getting stops, getting them off the field. The Browns came up clutch in multiple situations. The Justin Fields QB draw, on 4th and 1 is the one that really comes to mind. Like, that's just stepping up, making a play, and filling your gaps. And that's stuff that we have not done. And I was blown away, right? This team did not come out as a whole and play its prettiest game. It didn't play its smoothest game. There was plenty of issues. There was miscommunication problems yet again. And there's plenty of things we can point to. But all in all, at the end of the day, man, the Browns did a heck of a job when it mattered most.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did want to interject about something that you did say, because I want to make sure I know what you meant, but I want to make sure that the audience knows what you meant. You said we did a great job executing on third down. We were actually 1 for 10 on third down. It was 4 for 4 on fourth down.
Fourth down. Okay.
Yes,
yeah.
Fourth down. Now, do you remember that one third down that we got, that we converted?
Was that the one to Judy on the sideline?
Indeed,
Yes.
it was. Yeah. 3rd and 7 after a 4th and 2. It was supposed to be a 4th and 2, but penalty got accepted. Went back to 3rd and 7. Judy caught it along the sideline, literally like right in front of us. It was incredible.
Yeah.
It was. But that was the one that we did, and there's a consistent theme with it. and it was when the Browns needed to make a play the most they did.
They did. Yep.
It was on offense they did it, and on defense they did it, especially on defense. Derek, they were 1 for 3 on 4th down. 1 for 3. And I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but each and every time they went for it on 4th down, it was like less than 2 yards. It was favorable for them to convert, and the Browns defense stepped up. Incredible job. And you're absolutely right. Like let's start with the defense, right? In terms of that D line, great performance, fantastic performance. I'm really, really happy to see Miles perform. I'm really happy to see Dalvin Tomlinson perform. It's especially with Dalvin Tomlinson. I mean, he's a guy that we talked about potentially being traded, and he's a guy that stuck around. What does that say about his character, him as a leader in that D-line group, that he was a guy that potentially was looking to get out of here, and he's still here making plays against our rivals? Incredible performance by him. And for me, it's solidified that I understand why we kept Dalvin Tomlinson, because that's a guy, that's a leader. That's a guy who understands what it means to be a Cleveland Brown. And I think that's so important, especially when you consider the young guys that we have on the D-line as well.
Yeah.
I thought the secondary played fairly well. There were a couple of moments where Pickens got the best of, I believe it was Denzel, who was lined up on him. Pickens just made some great plays, fair enough. But what I will say is it felt like outside of maybe one moment, Greg Newsome did a really good job of keeping him in check.
Yeah.
He did.
Especially at the end of the game.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was funny. But
yeah.
anyways, the thing with the defense was they especially in the first half were incredible. Lights out. Awesome. Third quarter had some stuff not go your way, right? We had 2 turnovers. We had a short field on one of those turnovers that ended up turning into a touchdown. All in all, it was pretty good. Outside of one drive defensively where it was genuinely the defense that wasn't good, there was a lot of penalties on that drive that kept the Steelers' drives alive. Outside of that, great game from them. Again, felt very reminiscent of last year's team. So, I mean, there's a bunch of other performers I can look at. Grant Delpit, I thought, had a really good game. Man, like somebody who I need to look at the film a bit closer is Isaiah McGuire, because his pressure percentages, pass rush win rate, geez, can't say that too fast, is really, really high. So that's really interesting. I got to do a little bit more film study on him. I didn't see him too well, but honestly, we were pretty high up. It was hard to see numbers, but some guys you can just tell by looking at them. Others, it's like, who is that guy? So, yeah. But, yeah, all in all, defensively, great day.
Yeah. Yeah. The only negative that I very clearly want to... There's actually 2 that you might not have seen on... Well, the one you definitely did. The one, Delpit, absolutely just atrocious on his coverage. Miscommunication. Walk-in easy touchdown. That was... I was looking, and I'm like, yep, number 9. What are we doing? Like, what was the thought process there?
Honestly, I forgot about that play.
Yeah.
But outside of that, he still had a decent game.
He did for sure, yeah. And then the one, it's not even a negative against us because I understand why we did what we did. It was a play action rolling to the left.
Oh, I remember that.
Russell Wilson decides to throw the ball, a dump off pass to, I think it was Calvin Austin. And meanwhile, I'm sitting up with my hand on Tristan like, because Pat Fryermuth is running scot-free. Tristan, I have never in my life in a football game seen a receiving target. I don't want to say receiver because, he's not a receiver, he's a tight end. But receiving target with no one. Literally could not have been more wide open if he tried.
I remember, Derek, after that play ended, both of us just turning to each other like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how did he miss that? Because I remember middle of the play saying, oh my God, he's free.
Yeah.
Like while the play was still happening. And while I was saying that, he dumped it off to the running back. Incredible. Honestly, what a blunder. Incredible.
Dude, honestly, it felt like divine intervention that he did not see him so wide open, because I don't know how he misses it.
Jim Donovan was standing in his way. He couldn't see it.
Oh, man. Yeah. It was, aside from those two things, yeah, pretty good. I wanted to point out, I think his name is, it's Reed. I think it's Winston Reed, the linebacker.
Yes, Winston Reed. Yep.
That dude's I'm not saying he's anything special, but I don't think people understand a football team is not made of all stars and starters. The contributors matter a lot. And that dude, boy, he has been a really, really good contributor. Him, Blake Whiteheart, who we'll talk about in a second when we get to the offense. But the Browns have had a couple guys that are not high level, high paid players that are playing well. Muhammad Diabate, same thing. And these guys are showing out. But yeah, all in all, I'll wrap up defensively. I thought it was a really good day for the most part. You mentioned it, George Pickens. That dude, say what you want about the character. Let's just talk about the football player on the field. That dude plays football like you stole money from him. Like, it is insane watching him play. And even live, it's totally different live. Like, every single route that he runs is just like, you took my money, I'm going to get... And it's like, all right, dude. Like, I get it, but, relax. Relax.
Yeah, honestly, well said. Well said about Pickens. That dude's crazy, man. He really is. I mean... I don't know what they feed their number one receivers in Pittsburgh, but whatever it is, it makes them play football really well, but also makes them go absolutely nuts.
Crazy.
I mean, there was Mapletron for a while who said he was the top 2 receiver in the league, which is crazy. And now I don't even know who he plays for anymore. Last I knew he was in Miami.
I think he's in Canada. That's not even a joke. I think he's
really
in Canada. Yeah.
Oh, dang. Okay. But Antonio Brown, well known for that, well documented as well. Go ahead and check out his Twitter; it's a great time.
Forget his Twitter. How about him taking his pads off and be like, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah, on the field. Yeah. crazy.
Which,
yeah.
I saw somebody say that George Pickens is a mix of those two. Like, he is Chase Claypool and AB in the same. Which, I mean,
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I can see it for sure.
Maybe a little bit of juju in there too. A little bit of
juju. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All the receivers, bro.
All the receivers. They all are a little bit crazy, But hey, whatever it is that makes them tick,
Hey, man, his draft day. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but George Pickens' draft day picture is one of my favorite NFL images of all time.
Oh my god. It's such a great meme. Oh, I love it. It's so hilarious. But with that being said,
you know what I got to do now, right?
Edit it.
No, I got to make a meme of him watching the podcast.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. That'd be awesome. Yes, absolutely do that. But anyways, let's pivot. Let's go to the offense, Derek. Certainly a multitude of different areas that we can start with this, right? Let's just talk about arguably the biggest, and that's Jameis Winston, Derek. Jameis Winston, man, I don't even know how to describe it. Watching him in person, it was great, it was good, and it was it was all of it. But honestly, it was more of the great and good than the he actually was a really good quarterback. He seems like he's really settling into this offense, and I don't know, man. It's when we have these discussions about can he be the guy that, bridges to the next guy? Can he be a guy that stays here for a few years while we develop the next guy? Like that, performances like that make me feel like, yeah, absolutely he can. Putting up 24 points on a team that I will say probably the best defense in the NFL. Only other team I can think of with one that's comparable is the Chargers. But for him to do that is incredible. It's an incredible accomplishment. I was so impressed by Jameis Winston, Derek. Why don't you give me your thoughts? What do you think about Jameis Winston in this game?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, Jameis Winston, there will never be another Jameis. Jameis is one of a kind. He is a global icon and a national treasure as far as I'm concerned. And the
he
funny,
needs to go. He needs to go in the Hall of Fame just for everything around him. Like, don't include statistics, right? Don't include any of it. Just play a highlight reel of his best moments. He deserves to be in there.
And by the way, who better to put in the Cleveland media than Jameis Winston? Oh man! And the funny thing is like I thought the stats from this game, we didn't get it. We haven't really been covering the games because they've been terrible, So we've just kind of been gearing towards the future is the best way to put it. But Jameis against New Orleans, like I didn't even realize he had 400 yards, like a crazy completion percentage. He went off, and we still got blown out.
He was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in this game, I thought the stats were going to be way better than they were. I mean, he was 18 of 27, 219 yards, an interception. But Tristan, what I love about Jameis Winston is he plays fearless. For good or for better or for worse, Jameis Winston is fearless when it comes to playing on that football field. We saw him step up into the pocket, make some crazy throws. And we've seen that really his entire time starting in Cleveland. And I'll say it, if Jameis started, where's this team at? I mean, really, where is this team at? You have to wonder.
Derek, even if he just started 2 weeks earlier,
yeah,
both the Bengals game and the Eagles game were one-score games in games where our offense was anemic. I can't help but sit here and feel like, right, if we put that into consideration, this is a 5-6 football team.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's not to say, like, well, what if the team, when we went into New Orleans, Jameis was, players were a bit more up for it, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where it looked like there were a lot of players that weren't. I can't help but sit here and say, like, this season could have been so much different if after that Commanders game they would have made the switch.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
It sucks. It sucks sitting here and saying that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think watching Jameis, I mean, there's so much to him, right? There's like you said, there's the great, there's the good, there's the bad, there's the horrible. And we got a taste of it all on Thursday, Tristan. We saw him throw, like, the one pick he had, I literally was just like, Jameis, what? Come on.
It was so obvious. The guy was sitting on it. The guy was sitting on it ready for it. But, oh, yeah. I'll tell you, like, actually, you know what? Let's wait until we get into the play calling. Let's wait for that. I'll save it for then. Okay. But I'll let you keep on going on Jameis.
No, he's just, I'm telling you, Jameis is a national treasure, dude. There's no one who I can ever remember being like him. And that's the best part about it, is it's not the interviews. It's not just the interviews. Like, how he is in his interviews and his personality is how he plays the game. And that is what makes him so great. Like, I'm dead serious. I might buy a Jameis jersey. I really might. Really might.
Absolutely. You'd be totally valid for it. It's the same thing like if you bought a Flacco jersey for the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like
Yeah.
he produced some amazing moments. So absolutely. It would be crazy to go out and buy like a Cody Kessler jersey, right?
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. Like cuz that's backup quarterback didn't do anything, right? But these guys had some insane moments, and Jameis Winston's time here, I don't know how long it's going to be, right? But this team is fun. It's
Oh yeah.
fun to watch. It's incredible.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing, man. That's what made Thursday so great is sorry, we're not getting that with Deshaun. And I don't mean to dig up a buried horse, but like the energy, the atmosphere, and the presence that Jameis Winston brings to the position. Oh my gosh. Like, it's incredible. And again, that's not to say that he's perfect. Jameis Winston is like the definition of unperfect. Like, there are, I don't want to repeat myself, but let me just shift gears here, right? Jameis Winston, I think, Tristan, absolutely needs to be your bridge quarterback for a multitude of reasons. A, he's not just all talk. He does play well. Not all the time, but when he does, he is good. He throws the ball downfield. He rips it. He takes chances, for better, for worse. He's mobile enough to gain yards when he needs to. The touchdown in that game where that was the clip of that is one of my favorite things of all time. Like, that is just, but anyway, on the field, Jameis is great. For the most part, Jameis is great. Off the field, Jameis is great. He's awesome. Looking at the situation we're in, I'm sorry I keep pushing my glasses up, by the way, everybody at home. They're loose and they're slipping constantly. When you look at the situation that the Browns are in right now, headed towards the future, and what do you do, and how do you get over this awful divorce that is the Deshaun Watson experiment, and how are you going to market this team to fans and market this team to sell tickets and product? You got your golden goose right now, and his name is Jameis Winston. 100%, because you can have a winning football team with Jameis, and again, I understand the record is what it is, but like we said earlier, if he started the whole year, I definitely believe it would be drastically different. 2, Jameis provides great publicity. Jameis Winston is a great publicity asset for the Cleveland Browns because everybody loves him. And if you hate Jameis Winston, then you're the problem, right? There was a third, but I can't remember it. Anyway, leadership. The Browns are going to be moving in the direction of a young guy, right, for the future. Probably draft, whether if you think whatever, whoever, that doesn't matter. Point being, the Browns are going to need somebody to be that bridge starter, and that is more than just on the field. That is leadership. That is kind of captain of the ship, is another way to say it. Jameis Winston is definitely the captain of the ship of the offense, and for me, regardless of who the quarterback we select is, I want them to sit behind Jameis and see how to lead a team, right? And how to get these guys ready to go. Because, again, not to dig up a dead horse, but like with Deshaun, never was leading. Never was the leader. Never was very vocal, right? And for whoever this young kid we draft is, I want that person to see Jameis stepping in front of the team, see Jameis stepping in front of the cameras, on and off the field, in the huddles. Whether if you believe it's corny or not, that's not the point. The point is he's doing it, and he's setting an example. So I think it sounds crazy. It really does sound crazy to say it like this, and there's going to be a lot of people that take this probably the wrong way. Tristan, I genuinely believe that Jameis Winston is God's gift to Cleveland because he is the perfect transition away from the Deshaun Watson era, both on the field because you can win with him and off the field because of what he does for you and who he is. And you don't have to force somebody into the future too early. So, listen, man, Jameis is 30 years old, right? Let's see.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the other thing that needs to be considered as well in this conversation, and you did bring this up, is that Deshaun Watson contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just to summarize here, so next season and the season after, he's currently on the books for $72.935 million worth of the cap. And then there's a void year in 2027 where he occupies $26.84 million. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, certainly there's still a pending investigation about him with the NFLPA. Might lead to suspension, could end up leading to a void of his contract. But if the Browns were to decide not to, there's not really a feasible solution that involves cutting him this offseason. It doesn't really work out that way. What you will likely see is you will see a restructure. And according to overthecap.com, by restructuring, the Browns can save up to $33.558 million in cap space. And then what you would likely see is him kind of be a backup quarterback, third quarterback for a year. We would restructure his contract again the following offseason and cut him on a post-June 1st designation. That is what you would likely see as far as getting rid of Deshaun Watson, just because most feasible solution this offseason doesn't look like getting rid of him is too feasible. But with that being said, I bring that up to say this. You can't go to him. He cannot be your starter. If you end up having your starter go down and you have to turn to him, people are not going to be happy with it, but it's a bit more understandable, right? With that being said, you got to find somebody that's capable of starting, that fans aren't going to not get behind. Jameis Winston's your guy, 100%. He is our Alex Smith. He is our Aaron Rodgers. It's our job to go out and find our Jordan Love, our Patrick Mahomes. We got to go out and we have to get somebody that can sit behind Jameis Winston and learn, Derek, because we have gotten this wrong so many times. And in order for this next quarterback to succeed, in order for us to build an offense that's capable of being one of the elites in the NFL, it starts at the top. This team has to establish their offensive identity. What do you want to be on the offensive side of the ball? Because it came into conflict the past 2 years, right, with Deshaun as the starter. It was, let's do spread, let's do all this other stuff, but the staff and the personnel aren't equipped for that. And then what we saw was every time that we turned to somebody else who could run the stuff that the staff and the personnel were most suited for, guess what? We looked great. So this team has to have a come-to-terms moment when it comes to this offense. It has to be either Kevin goes or there's an organizational shift in mentality about the offensive side of the ball. Those are the only two options. Because as it currently is, you can't proceed forward, right? Personally, I hope it's the latter because I think Kevin Stefanski's proven time and time again he's a great head coach. I hesitate when it comes to the thought of bringing in a young guy for that very reason. If we're gonna move off of Kevin, don't bring in a young guy this offseason. Please don't, in my opinion at least, because there's going to be too much chaos, way too much chaos. I would love to bring in a young guy this offseason if it meant that he was going to sit behind Jameis Winston for a year or two and learn, develop in the Kevin Stefanski offense. Because if we decide to change coach and change our offense, it's going to involve a massive overhaul that I don't think a lot of people understand would be required. So I say that to say this: bring Jameis Winston back, believe in Kevin Stefanski, and for goodness sakes, I hate the constant arguments against the analytics department here. I think a lot of it's just overblown. But what I will say is a run is a productive play, and it's shown that whenever we've been a great rushing team, we have been a great team. So I hope that the people that are in charge of the direction of this franchise are able to pivot and buy into pivoting and committing to Kevin Stefanski, committing to Jameis Winston. I think that's the best step forward for this organization.
Yeah, and it's funny because the odd couple of Jameis Winston and Kevin Stefanski. I mean, it's crazy, but
Yeah.
couldn't have said it better. I mean, you don't really have a whole lot of options with Deshaun Watson, and that what drives me crazy. And this is not a shot at anybody who does draft stuff, but I tend to pay close attention to draft coverage at early parts of the year, whether for good or bad, whatever. And a lot of people, when it comes to the Browns, have been saying, "Oh, well, the Browns are tied to Deshaun Watson; they're not drafting a quarterback." My argument to that would be that is almost the complete contrary as far as what the point they're trying to make is. Because you are tied to Deshaun Watson financially is the reason why you need to replace him as far as draft pick wise and young under contract and development. And in my opinion, that is the direction the team will go in. Who that will be, I don't know. This Saturday was certainly a horrible weekend for a lot of these draft quarterbacks outside of a handful. Quinn Ewers got hurt. What?
I just want to say I would like to interject that I thought that Drew Haller looked fairly good.
I said a handful.
I'll-
outside of a handful.
I hear you, boss. I hear you.
I mean, Shador looked fine, I guess, but they lost to Kansas. Quinn Ewers, another injury. Jalen Milroe looked awful, which shocking that he looked that bad, but he looked terrible. Who else am I forgetting? Jackson Dart. Oh my gosh.
You were talking
Oh
up Jackson
my
Dart when we
gosh.
were at the game. Oh, and
Dude.
he had that one great throw. I said I was going to look at his film a little bit more, and just I saw the
Dude.
stat line. I was like, oh my goodness, okay.
He had a solid game. Like that was the craziest part. Like he had a solid game. The last 2-ish minutes of that game was some of the worst turn of events I've ever seen in my life. And you're talking to somebody who was at the Browns Jets game where we lost somehow in the last like minute and a half by like 13 points or whatever it was. Anyways, I'd just like to point out Cam Ward had a good weekend out of everybody. So just throw that out there. Oh man. But point being, like the Browns, regardless of who it is, you're gonna have somebody that you're trying to develop within your system, and you have to have somebody in charge leading the ship offensively, and Jameis 100% needs to be that guy. And the biggest reason you could say that is look at the production that he's getting out of guys around him. All of a sudden, Elijah Moore is playing better. All of a sudden, Cedric Tillman explodes onto the scene. David Njoku, who is being David, although he had a drop touchdown, turned around and caught an even tougher ball and a 2-point conversion on Thursday. And Jerry Jeudy, Tristan, let's just take a bow collectively on Jerry Jeudy, because when everybody said, this guy sucks, why would you sign him to an extension? This is stupid. The Browns pay dirt cheap money as far as a contract goes. It's around the Gabe Davis levels, relatively. and you traded what, a fifth and a sixth or something like that for Jerry Jeudy.
Minute amounts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and over the last since Jameis has been the starter, if I'm not mistaken, Jerry Jeudy went from averaging like 46 a game to like 90 something. I think the number was like 94 yards a game. And in this game, nobody was catching the ball and putting up crazy numbers. Jerry Jeudy had a day. Jerry Jeudy went off, and this is an Alabama kid. I shouldn't say Alabama kid. I don't know where he's from, but a kid who went to Alabama, a kid who played in Denver, which, yes, I know it snows in Denver, but it ain't like Cleveland type of cold. It's not like it was on Thursday. And he had a game. So Jameis spreads the ball out. Jameis makes his mistakes, yes, but he does a lot of things really well. Browns this offseason, identify the quarterback that you think is the future, get him, have him sit, and get weapons. Fill the holes. Draft a running back. Draft a receiver, probably. Offensive line. But I think we have been blessed with the ability to have the formula and kind of the outline in front of us. And that is Jameis. So,
yeah. So here's what I'll say to that is what impressed me the most about Jerry Jeudy was, you said it, David Njoku had a couple great moments, but wasn't his best game. Cedric Tillman had a couple moments, but not his best game. He also had the fumble. I thought Elijah Moore was fairly reliable again. I mean, he's been phenomenal with Jameis Winston. And then there's Jerry Jeudy. And, you know, this offseason, actually going into this offseason, at the end of last year with Denver, he was, called just a guy, not good, overrated. Browns traded for him. Oh, he's overrated. He's not that great. He gets the extension, bad contract, not good. And even up to all of his time with Deshaun, it's been, I don't get why we did that deal. He's not very good. He's, an average wide receiver too, yada, 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 whatever. He's now got a situation where he's got a guy that's capable of giving him the ball regularly, and he's showing out. And he's showing he can be a number one wide receiver. And that is the most important thing, in my opinion, when it comes to him in particular. He's showing that this ability, he's able to be that number one guy. And he's doing it against teams that are insanely good. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense is incredible. And he, time and time again, in moments where we needed him, he showed up and he made a play. I think, Derek, I know you said probably look to draft a wide receiver. If we re-sign Elijah Moore, I wouldn't feel like we necessarily need to get a wide receiver. I know that's crazy to say, but especially if we're committing to a Kevin Stefanski offense, it's one that's going to run the football a lot and isn't going to throw the ball too crazy. And you've got Jerry Jeudy, who you like, right? Who we've seen now is capable of being that number one guy. You felt for a long time he could be that number one guy. I felt certainly for a decent while, you a bit longer than I have, that he could be a number one guy. You got Cedric Tillman, who with Jameis Winston has been the deep threat this Browns team has been missing for a very long time. Been absolutely exceptional on the boundary. Mm-hmm. You got Jamari Thrash, who you just invested a pick into. And if you bring back Elijah Moore, that's a reliable guy for the slot that Jameis has built a great relationship with. Not to mention David Njoku, who deserves quite a few targets. Jordan Akins, who when we've turned to him, he's been good. Mm-hmm. So like you've got these guys in the passing game. Derek, I don't think the passing receivers are the problem with this team, with this offense. So, I mean, personally, like I'd be fine if we didn't draft one. Now, it's not to say I'd be upset if we did. Certainly if we did, I'd be okay with it. I'd be happy with it. But this is a little bit different. Like I feel confident. Like if Jameis is going to stay, these pass catchers are good. They're good enough. For me, the biggest question about the overhaul this offseason You mentioned running back. What is it going to look like with Nick Chubb in the future if he ends up staying, which I hope he does. And then we've got to talk about this offensive line. It needs some serious work. At least 3 new starters. Yeah, it's a lot of question marks about this offense, and we'll certainly address it in the offseason. But I don't think that there's a crazy need to go out and get a receiver right now.
I don't think it's a need. I think it's more so depending on the situation, I guess, is the best way of saying it. Because, if the Browns end up with the top pick and let's just say Shador and Cam are gone, let's just say that 1 or 2 of the tackles are gone, even though it seems at the NFL level people think they're guards, which I'm not drafting a guard that high. That's just me. I think Kelvin Banks is a tackle. That's just my opinion. Some people disagree. But, let's just say the board falls and the best player on the board is Tetairoa McMillan, right, for the Browns to pick. If that's the case, okay. So be it. And I don't know. It's pointless to talk about at the moment just because, whatever. But
there's so much going to change between now and then. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
But situations are situational, so it'll change as it goes. But yeah, go Browns, huh?
Go Browns. Derek, when it comes to this offense, keeping Jameis Winston, it fixes so much of this, right? It makes a lot of these bigger needs become less big of needs. I mean, even the offensive line, Derek, it's looked so much better since James has been. He gets the ball out quick, and he doesn't run into pressure. So, those 2 things they fix so much. In this offensive line, don't get me wrong, it's not perfect, it's not fixed, but it's playing a lot better because there's better play from behind them. So, I'm very big on stability. That's why personally I want to keep Kevin. And I know it sounds crazy. I still want to keep Andrew Barry. I still want to keep this analytics department intact and everything. I think there just has to be a shift in how they view the offense because they figured out the defense. They figured it out. They got it spot on. It's the offense that they gotta figure it out. And I know it sounds crazy, but I trust them. I trust them to, because what I've seen is they've taken a 3rd-round pick in Cedric Tillman that looks like he has the potential to, at a minimum, be a good wide receiver 2. If not, he has the ceiling to be an X receiver. We've talked about that multiple times. You've drafted DeJuan Jones in the 4th round, and he looks like he could potentially be the Browns' left tackle of the future.
Hopefully.
And, hopefully, let's hope. His injury was not good. Let's hope that he's doing okay.
Well, it's not that. I'm worried about Thursday.
What?
Think about it. What's Thursday?
Thursday Night Football? I'm confused.
No, this Thursday. What is Thursday?
Oh, Thanksgiving. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
It's a joke. It's a joke, but it's serious. The dude came in at 415 pounds.
Yeah.
Now he's forced to not move.
I hear you, but at the same time, he's got to, you got to remember, he's not going to be, we're not going to have to worry about that for another 9 months, Derek.
Wow.
9 months, okay? I truly believe that this season was a learning lesson for him.
Yeah.
He showed in his rookie year he's capable of functioning at a really high level professionally. And he's got all the God-given abilities to function at that high level. It's clear that this year he came in overweight, underprepared, and he talked about that. Adam the Bull on Twitter, there was a clip that went out, and he responded to it and said, looks like we both have to lose weight, but, I'll certainly be better. Like that second sentence stands out a lot to me. He very much could have just left the first part and not added that second part. But it's clear he's acknowledging the issue. He still has to go out and prove that he's going to address it. But at the same time, I have hope for DeJuan Jones. I really do. And I think he'll figure it out. And I think that he's the future at least right tackle, if not left tackle, for this team. So, yeah, I believe in him, right? And I believe in Andrew Berry in particular because even though we haven't had the greatest of options as far as picks since that Deshaun Watson trade, he's made some unbelievable moves, great value when it comes to the draft. He's had some terrible decisions with Siaki and Anthony Schwartz. Absolutely deserves some criticism for that. But at the same time, like, he found Martin Emerson, right? He found in the third round, right? He found Cedric Tillman. He traded up to get JOK. He drafted Grant Delpit in the second round. You know, there's a lot of individual moves that he made that made this team a lot better. And I think it would be dismissive to look over the good to focus on the negative with him. I trust him. I just do.
I get your point, and I understand the direction at which you're coming from, and I agree to an extent. I think my line in the sand is now. Like, if he's the one, which I anticipate him to be making these picks, if he's the one to make these picks, you can have the don't have first round picks argument, second round picks argument, whatever you want to say. I will put a lot of stock in this year, and we've talked about how valuable or how important this year is. For me, that stands true, and that's why I say I think the Browns need to be fluid. The Browns absolutely need to be fluid when it comes to the draft. I don't care, like, you know, if you don't think any of these quarterbacks are good, don't take one. Take the best player available. Take the best player available. I don't care if it's Ashton Genty. Okay, I don't care. Like, whatever puts this team in the best spot to win, that's what we need to do. But yeah, as far as the offense and just kind of wrapping up because we're at an hour, I think things have improved enough to the point where you can really look at it and be like, okay, now stuff comes into perspective as far as where we go from here, and how we should handle it as far as the future. Where things kind of come in limbo is what you talked about, right? The offensive line and those sort of things. But like I said earlier, I mean, these are conversations to be had at a later time because there's a lot to unfold. There's still a lot of games, but we'll see. We'll see.
Absolutely, Derek. And I'm really excited to see the rest of this season, just to see how we kind of respond after this game, just to kind of see how we finish out the year. And also, I'm really excited for college football. A lot of really, really interesting games happening right now, and great opportunities to view some guys that could be future Cleveland Browns. So I'm really excited to see where this will go. But yeah, I can't help but sit here and say I think the best decision that this Browns organization can make moving forward is to choose stability and to provide consistency. And I think all of those things you can do by keeping your management staff in place as it is, your coaching staff in place as it is, and your current starting quarterback in place as he currently is.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. That's it for me. You got anything else?
No, go Brownies. I can't wait to get into discussions this offseason about potential draft picks and just about different directions this team can go. It's exciting having our first round pick this year, finally. So I can't wait, Derek. It's going to be so fun.
Again, he said it earlier. The quarterback breakdown. Go check that out. Would appreciate it. We spent a lot of time and
Yes.
effort into that. And if you're watching to the end, thank you. Go Browns, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, night.